First of all, welcome to Technology Live here in Munich at a very nice day, sunny day. We're in the middle of the Veeam tour right now, and I've seen a couple of you guys in Munich last week. So company is doing well. I'll jump to the next slide. Okay, so we are around 2.1 billion ARR per year. We have more than 550,000 customers worldwide, more than 60,000 customers in Germany. We are representing our business and doing business in more than 150 countries. 80% of the Fortune 500 are with us, and we are growing in the cloud business with more than 130% a year. So that's where the company is coming from, 20 years in the business. We made a promise to our customers: when everything else breaks, we will make sure your business bounces back. And that's still the most important promise we are making to the market. So when ransomware hits, when a model drifts, when an agent goes rogue, when a region goes dark, Veeam has your back. That's our promise to our customers, to the industry. That has not changed, so that's still our main mission. But what has changed is the world we're living in. So again, that's a kind of description where we are coming from. 3 areas of our company. So I want to spend the next few minutes sharing with you what we see from where we sit, not as a warning, but as an opportunity, and the biggest one Veeam has ever seen. There are 3 areas of protecting and creating value from data, and as we all know, data is a primary heartbeat of the modern world. I think we all agree on that. Let me go into each of them. So the area 1, so that's where, and when someone thinks about us, most people think of backup and recovery, so that's where we're coming from. This was when the computing became a thing and the world discovered the magic of data stored digitally. It had one simple rule: assume restore. Something breaks, you bring it back. Veeam redefined this area. We invented instant recovery. You will see that on the slide when it's coming back again. So 2 minutes RTO, when the industry standard was hours that time. We built the broadest workload coverage on the planet across VMs, physical, hybrid, multi-cloud, SaaS, Kubernetes. So we have really the broadest range in the industry, that's for sure. And because your data doesn't live in one place, so your protection shouldn't either. So that was also our mission when we started 20 years ago, the company. Then came era 2, cyber resilience. This one works, at least. Cyber resilience, so when we speak about ransomware, so at that time, ransomware was the catalyst. The rules changed from if to when. You had to assume you would be breached at one time. Ransomware became a broad and a board-level imperative. And we built the only end-to-end answer with this immutable backups, inline malware detection to catch ransomware in flight, and SLA-backed recovery with cybersecure. And we were not alone. We are not done. We were not alone. So that's really one of the key things in the industry, but we are clearly leading it. So like staying ahead of the quantum threat to encryption already on the horizon. And now the third area, and that's, I think, the most interesting part maybe for today, the agentic era. The new rule assumed agents drift, not breach, not failure, drift. Drift happens in 2 ways, and the second one is the more dangerous one. 2, so first one, the agent does what it shouldn't, overprivileged or rogue or shadow agents. And I think you have all seen the headlines, what may happen when this happens. And then the second one, which is the more dangerous one and the more, let's say, the one where less people are speaking about, the agent does exactly what you told it, but maybe on data was context quietly changed, or the model trained and obsolete data leading to hallucinations, very difficult word for a German to speak. So in both of these examples, right permission, right controls, but horrible wrong actions. At machine speed, small divergences compound into decisions you don't want and cannot see and cannot undo. And area 3 isn't one shift, it's 3 triggers colliding at once. Each one rewrites what protecting data must mean. And this is why we made, candidly, the biggest move in our company. So we acquired last year, as you know, Security AI. That was the most important acquisition we have done to have the right answer on this, let's say, third evolution in the industry. So if era 3 is defining by these 3 shifts colliding, the question becomes, what does protecting data actually means today? If those 3 shifts are real, then our security model has a problem because it was not designed for the world. Zero trust was built for humans, identities, devices, networks. But in an agentic world, the thing that matters most is not the endpoint, it's not even the agent. It's the data. And that is a shift. Data security becomes a primary control point. Because agents will move across systems, models will evolve, identities will scale beyond human control. But data is the constant. In era 3, you do not defend the perimeter, you defend the data. We are going to go into more details. It's quite technical what I'm saying here, but I think we have the experts here today to explain. Now, if you look at how the AR market is being built today, it looks, sorry? Bless you. I hope it's not too cold now. Huh? It looks complete. So you have infrastructure, data platforms, models, orchestration, and agents on the top. Hundreds of billions are invested right now. So whenever you open the press, you read about this 100 billion here, 100 billion there. So that's where all the money is flowing to. But there's a fundamental issue. The stack is optimized to build AI, but not to trust AI. And I will explain what we mean with that. So that's the layer we are saying which is missing. And that leads to the core problem. One layer is completely missing. There is no layer designed to understand data context, enforce policy, track lineage, or control how AI uses data, which means we are scaling intelligence without scaling trust. So what does it mean, and what does the actual layer actually need to do? It starts with context. So the layer we are speaking about starts with context, not just data context, but multi-domain context across data, identity, and AI. Because without context, AI cannot distinguish safe from unsafe and relevant from irrelevant. I think I should push more often the click. But context alone is not enough. That context must travel with data across systems, clouds, models, and agents. Otherwise, the moment data moves, the trust is lost. Let me see. Oh, no, that was too quick, but I go through 3 and 4. You also need real-time enforcement. That's super important, real-time enforcement. Not policy documented, not static control or static control. Runtime enforcement that identified aware and context aware, because decisions are happening dynamically, autonomously, and at machine speed. So it's nothing where you can wait another day or another hour. You have to act immediately. And finally, when something goes wrong, the response must be immediate, targeted, precise, not shutting down systems, that's important, but correcting exactly what went wrong. That is what infrastructure to trust AI looks like: context, continuity, enforcement, and precision. So that's the layer we are going to discuss later on, which is the key, let's say, evolvement of our company we are going to introduce. On the left-hand side, you see where we're coming from, data resilience, the first 2 eras, and I think we have defined the industry for many years in this era. So we have added security AI, and the idea is not just an evolution. We think we are really addressing the market in the right way. It's all about data and AI security, and combining data and AI trust to a new data and AI trust company. So that's the vision we have, coming from a very strong position in data resilience, adding all the knowledge from security AI, and really building a new company. So it's not independently run, it's fully integrated what we do here. And I would like to hand over to, who is next speaker, you?
Yeah, me. Yeah. I've got a couple of QR codes. One was London, so it was talking about the back end of 2025, where we sat from a Veeam point of view, what technology we had. Paris was more about the security AI. What is that landscape? What does that actually bolt onto the Veeam story, and why we've done what we've done? Like, we could have just gone and bought 150 million DSPM player and story tick, done. Some of our competition have done that. We went out and bought the number 1 in that space. security that started actually from a privacy ops point of view, so around privacy regulation governance, and then filtered into that DSPM, that data security posture management arena. So as much as that AI is important, understanding that data is important, what we wanted to show is a lot more about the resilience, like the bread and butter about where resilience is going in 2026 and beyond. Yes, as it pertains to AI, but equally, like just in general, operational databases, operational data. How do we help our customers get back when bad things happen? That's ultimately our story is around that. There's a rise, at least that I'm seeing, around people using database as a service. So whether that be things like PlanetScale, Superbase, etc. But I wondered if anyone would share what you're seeing, and if you are seeing that, is it from a production point of view, or is it just devs in that space?
What I'm seeing is there's this huge security risk prone by those agents, not only normal agents that have different behavior than persons, that the things you're targeting about, but also rogue agents that are really targeting the IT systems of a lot of companies.
Yeah.
And we're now at the beginning phase, like in the baby phase, but I think if we'll be standing here in a year, probably back here in Munich, those agents have become more intelligent, and they are a huge threat currently for infrastructure. And what I want to know, how far ahead are you on the game?
I think it starts with that data. Think about an agent the same as a human. Like if you're in our business and you're working in finance, and I'm a techie, I shouldn't have access to your finance data.
Yeah.
That agent, if it's a finance agent, if it's a tech agent, it shouldn't have access to your data. So we have to look at, first of all, you have to understand what that data is so that you can secure it and make sure that you don't have God mode or you only live one, YOLO type mode. We've got to secure that data, but in order to do that, we've got to have a good understanding of that data. So I think access and identity, we're going to cover that a little bit as we go through, about where we're thinking about how do we protect.
Yeah, but if you look further, it's also like that the future agents, they are like a locksmith on steroids.
Yeah.
And they're not only friendly from normal nations, but also not so friendly nations. And especially the international risk is getting bigger and bigger, especially for a lot of well-known organizations.
So an agent, although not a human, it adopts identity from our identity systems, be it Active Directory, from Entra, from Okta, whatever that identity platform may be. It only or should only have access to what it's been given to. Now, we could all go into our Active Directory today, and we can give everyone domain admin rights, and people could go and make an absolute mess of our environment. Same as an agent. So how do we protect against that? We're going to cover, I think it starts with one, understanding that data footprint that we have across all these multiple platforms, and then it comes down to making sure that we secure and make sure that people only have access to what they should. People/agents.
Well, that's the question, we're all talking this day and age, we talk about zero trust models and, least privilege, so I have the feeling that we're actually less lenient when it comes to agents, because we want to try out what they're going to do and how they, what they can do. And I find that rather stupid, because on the one hand, we're going like, you're a human, oh, no, don't touch it, no touching.
Yeah. But we let the agent go, have at it.
And then, and the agent goes like, oh yeah, let's delete the backup and all the data, and then I profusely and profoundly apologize, but the data's gone,
Yeah,
So.
you can't sack an agent.
Yeah.
You can delete it, but you can't sack it. And I think you're right. I think we are in that early, I think you called it like the baby phase. We're learning what that needs to look like. We're giving agents domain admin access.
But also, if you look at the baby, you will also handle a baby differently from a kid to a person in puberty or an adult person. And what I think is that also listening to the things you are talking about, it's mostly in the day of age of now. Well, I think we really need to talk and think about tomorrow.
Yeah, and I think that it comes down to the data landscape and then that trust around identity for those agents.
Yeah.
But from us, like we're not an Okta, we're not going to go and sort out that problem. But how do we protect services like Okta or Active Directory or Entra ID or whatever that identity system needs to look like?
Maybe it would be a good idea to see all the agents just the villain, you know.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
If they can be the villain of the future.
Yeah,
And we know
absolutely.
all the science fiction movies with very hefty.
You don't have to think about Terminator, you just just a piece of software.
Yeah.
If I may step in, Michael, there, this is really right, because Zero Trust is built for humans, not for agents.
Yeah.
So we have agents roaming around without like proper authority, or better said, what I normally say, that AI agent is a toddler that's 5, asking a lot of questions, doing a lot of things. You say that, ooh, please don't do that, please don't do that. But the one thing is, it's not listening. And that's the
Yeah.
same with the AI agent. That's also why we built that trust layer. That's also why we think,
Yeah.
because everyone bolted like engineering. Normally when I go to engineering and they come to me, we have a project, we want to do something. Okay, how much resources do you need? Everything. Yeah, how much? Give me everything. That's also why a lot of development is being done in the cloud, because you can scale.
Yeah.
But as soon as you know that product is finished, we will bring it back on-prem or in another part that's being governed, and then all of a sudden it's a 16-node Kubernetes cluster instead of everything. That's kind of where we are at this moment in time.
And also what I'm asking myself is, can you guys track where the data is? Because all those agents, they are pulling data,
Yeah.
like all sorts of animals, but they want to get access to the data, but in the end you don't know where your data is, because they use the data for analysis. It's somewhere in some cloud, some vendor, in some country. You don't know anything.
Now that's also why we have in the trust layer the whole visibility, because if you don't know where it is, you have no clue what you have, how can you protect it?
It's not
That's
just,
what we bring in.
But it's not just that, because as you said earlier, I mean, it's all about context as well. It's not just knowing where it is, but it's also about the context. And if
Yeah.
the AI baby doesn't have a clue about the context,
Yeah.
you know,
No,
it's just
it's
using
kind
it for
of like-
whatever, you know. Just, as you said before, it just goes rogue.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm an ethical hacker, so it's kind of walking into a hotel blindfolded, and you will find the interesting pieces,
Yes.
so you will go for the bar somewhere,
Yeah.
but you don't know where it is, it's in dark. The AI agent tries every door.
Yeah.
If it isn't locked, it will go in. And that's the whole thing where we have to get that visibility in. If we have the visibility, we can lock those doors, also for those rogue agents. But we'll allude on that a little bit later on in the presentation, so please keep that going, I love that.
Cool. So time check is that we've got about an hour to get through this. So just to cover that, like, so in terms of the focus for today is obviously going to be about the data resilience side, and the reason for that is basically when we were in London, as I mentioned, we spoke about like this pre-acquisition, what the vision, what the strategy looked like. Paris then in March, I thought it was May, this year's flying. But ultimately there is where we covered that security, governance, compliance and privacy areas. Maybe if there's the next iteration, the next chapter of Technology Live, we can go into a bigger picture about them as well, because I appreciate that not everyone was in London or Paris or both. But today,
I was going to say, but those sessions are recorded.
Yes.
These are the QR codes. For the session.
but ultimately everything lands in this data AI command platform. So think about this as just a central unified platform to be able to handle both the resilience and the data security around that. So what me and Edwin wanted to do today was, so there's still a fundamental issue. I've spoken about operational resilience or operational data and operational databases. There's still an absolute need to protect that data today. People aren't even in that AI space. Ultimately, AI is still running on the technology and the platforms that we see out there today as well, like Kubernetes, public cloud, hypervisors, etc. So what we wanted to do today was really dive into like what's coming this year. So that London event, we spoke about what's on the truck today from a Veeam point of view, what's just been released from a V13. In the summer, in the next couple of months, we're going to have 13.1, and just want to raise awareness of some of the areas, some of the underpinnings that we're putting together in the resilience space to help our customers protect their data across all these different platforms a little bit better. To break that down into sections, so there's an expansion around, like I've mentioned, our customers they're no longer just in the four walls of the data center. They're no longer just on one virtual, like there's no just VMware estate or VMware data center. They're using PaaS and SaaS, and they're using public cloud, and they're using all these different platforms. So we have to follow them, and we have to help them protect these workloads. So we'll touch on that. Equally around like enhancing what we already do around unstructured data. Unstructured data is a big term at the moment because that's what AI uses, but ultimately just under the hood, unstructured data is complex data. Could be your NAS shares, but equally it could be your object storage. Object storage could then be your potentially databases and other data services. So we've expanded what we've done there. I haven't really put too much time into that. We're going to run out of time anyway, but it's around how do we better protect that unstructured data out there in the landscape. Then Edwin's going to touch on some of those security areas, identity being probably the biggest, but also cyber resilience. The eras haven't gone away, right? So if we think about the eras that Armin touched on, the backup and recovery, or the resilience era, was the fire, flood, and blood, the bad things that happen. Oh, my data center's underwater. You need backup with the insurance policy. Then along comes cyber resilience or cyber security, ransomware, etc. That became mainstream in the news on a daily basis. That obviously comes along, and that's another resilience era that we had to help our customers navigate through. And then now we've got this AI era, but equally, I think the era that we're in is just a fast-moving, multi-platform, where all of our applications and our data is running across multiple different, and we need to move fast. Like I don't know if AI era is the right thing. The news would say otherwise. But I think just in general, everything is moving exceptionally fast. We're using services here, there, and everywhere that weren't there 10 years ago. So anyway, Edwin's going to touch on a bit more of that cyber resilience and identity. And I'm going to touch on, if we've got time, some demos around, okay, what are we doing from an AI perspective? How are we helping our backup admins make their days easier without giving them YOLO access? Like, how do we make sure that a backup admin agent doesn't have any ability to just randomly recover data or do bad things to the backups? It's a read-only. Anyway, we'll get into that as well. But hopefully that'll pass some of that. I mentioned this, so the Data AI Command Platform is one of the big thing for our customers is the modularity of Veeam across multiple different platforms, be it AWS, Google, Microsoft 365, Salesforce, VMware. We have a modular way in which you can manage each of those platforms. Kubernetes is another one. So Kasten is deployed within the Kubernetes cluster, and you can use role-based access control to access that. You don't need to be in you can have them centrally unified, but equally you can have them as modular solutions. So just the Kubernetes admin has access to the Kubernetes cluster and so on. But a big ask for our customers, or from our customers, has been around this unified platform. How do we provide the ability to add all of those Veeam platforms into one place? So bring in VBR, so Veeam Backup and Replication, Veeam One, Security AI, Kasten, etc., all into one place. Now, in doing that, that's great. Yeah, we've got a centralized, unified SaaS control plane, but ultimately some of the big ticket items that come from that is the ability to globally search across all of that data. So the understanding that data and securing that data is one part, but then how do we protect that and be smarter around what that looks like? So lots of cool stuff coming around being able to see everything under one roof and take advantage of that DSPM, that data security posture management area there. Just what does that look like for an existing Veeam customer? So you're going to install 13.1. You're going to get all of those capabilities that we touched on. You're basically going to put that connectivity between the two, and then you're going to start to see, if I can, pause, but you'll see, hopefully very quickly, like multiple platforms being shown here. No, it won't let me show it. So this unified platform, you'll see like there's some SQL servers, there's some Azure, there's some vSphere. Very quick demo, but ultimately it's about bringing everything into one platform, one unified view, see where everything resides, be able to bring role-based access control to that, so that maybe your finance guy wants to be able to see certain elements of their data and be able to manage that, but then be able to lock down what other access they have as well. And to couple that together with the security AI piece is that using the command graph, they've got the ability to put that social network of data together, see where that data source is, how it's being protected, who has access to that data, and then start to see any toxic combinations that are happening, who has overprivileged access, who's accessing that out of band, out of time, an anomaly detection to that, all of that good stuff. So on top of that, I've mentioned this many times around these multiple platforms. Veeam started 20 years ago protecting VMware VMs, like just virtual machines 20 years ago. We were pretty good at it. And that's ultimately where our customers were, right? That's how we got to well over $1 billion in annual recurring revenue. So we were pretty good at it. But with what's happening from a hypervisor perspective, I've been calling it the hypervisor Hunger Games. I might have used that joke with you guys before. But there's weird and wonderful hypervisors that are popping out every week, it seems. So we've had to expand where our customers are going from a virtual machine. Where are they running their virtual machines? Equally, people are moving to the public cloud. That's obviously been a trend for a number of years. How do we protect those workloads, not only virtual machines in the public cloud, but also PaaS-based services like RDS or DynamoDB or Azure SQL, et cetera, et cetera.
Can I ask something about the cloud part?
Yeah.
Because we're all talking about, sovereignty at the moment, like it's a big thing. So yes, you're having like the main players in there. Are you looking into European specific ones to support?
So yeah, that's a good point. I don't know if we added anything on sovereignty.
No.
Right, okay. Me and you can talk about that ad lib now. Because so this is something, obviously both being in Europe, it's topical. And if you think of, so from a Veeam point of view, how do you procure Veeam? Veeam is an ISO that you download and you install it on your own servers and you manage it, you water, you feed it, to use a DevOps term.
I'm not talking about it, I'm really asking if you're looking to support European clouds, you know, like the smaller players that are very local.
Yeah, so that's where I was getting. So a customer can download and install it themselves. Equally, we have this program called the VCSPs, so it's our Veeam Cloud Service Providers.
Sorry, called what?
Veeam Cloud Service Providers.
CSP.
VCSPs. Sorry,
Just for people.
it rolls off my tongue very quick. We're very good at acronyms at this
There
place.
are people taking notes.
Sorry. So yeah, Veeam Cloud Service Providers, and they'll be your MSPs that offer Veeam as a service.
Yeah.
So now I can go down the road to this data center, this service provider, and say, can you protect my environment? And then they offer that out. We've had that for a number of, at least I've been here 11 years, and we've had
15
that.
years already.
We've had that way before then. So
But you don't have any support for OVH, for instance.
yeah, OVH are a massive Veeam VCSP.
Yeah, but if I have my workloads in OVH, can I do you? I don't see it in your cloud.
You can use the
Yeah. No, it's a fair point. We've got 34,000 VCSPs across the globe that are transacting around 250 million of our annual recurring revenue. There's not a slide big enough to put everyone's
The question
logo.
was, how can I protect the workload in other cloud except those four?
So they offer
It's
that
called
as a service on
agent,
top. It's just hidden away. Like, so as an OVH customer, you're running a virtual machine. There is an option to recover, protect it there.
And if I look at your SaaS overview, I think it's a bit short.
It very much is, in my opinion as well. So these three as well are roadmap items as well in terms of Microsoft 365 Dynamics, GitHub, Okta. I can't share yet, but that list, by the time we speak next, that list will need two columns. There's a load more around identity resilience, around other SaaS workloads. Think about like the ITSM, the collaboration tools, the equivalents of M365. There is so many. There is a massive gap. I completely agree. And we're listening now to our customers around what needs to be protected, as well as that identity resilience side of things.
Because what I think is that also protecting SaaS environments is not too much on the agenda of a lot of people, because they think everything is safe. Mm-hmm. But in reality, it's not.
Yeah, the shared responsibility model is real, right? Everyone, you own your data that goes into a GitHub or a Dynamics. Microsoft don't care about that, or they care, but they don't provide you a recoverability of that data if you make a mistake. So yeah, fully hear you. And that's ultimately why I was asking about that database as a service, the Superbases, the Planet Scale, because I think they offer the ability to export dumps out, and that's then done. But they don't go into the granularity around being able to recover individual tables and actually what a DBA or what a team actually need to that. Cool, okay, so coverage is way more than just VMware, right? That's the premise of that slide. Took way too long to talk about it. I said about the hypervisor Hunger Games. We've already been on this path. You can see available now, like VMware vSphere, Hyper-V, Nutanix HV. We touched on this in March as well. And these are all trending and taking some of that market share from a VMware perspective. But that VMware market share for us in particular hasn't completely gone through the floor. There's still the majority of our customer base are still VMware customers. And then that might be some of the people that have moved might have just reduced that footprint, and they might have gone to a Proxmox or a Nutanix HV, or they might have just kept a little bit of vSphere and got another hypervisor in that game. So there's lots of areas there, but ultimately we're seeing customers moving into everything that you see on the list. So what's coming? HPE Morpheus is already there today. XCP-NG, which is a rebirth of Citrix Zen Server, but European-based development. Might go to that sovereignty question as well, for a lot of people having to run up their own environments. Sangfa, more MSP, APJ focused. Red Hat OpenShift. Now we already have the ability to protect VMs on Red Hat OpenShift using our Kasten product. Remember I said about Kasten, modular solution, get deployed inside of your Kubernetes cluster, allows you to protect VMs on Kubernetes, but also containerized workloads on Kubernetes. Red Hat themselves have brought out a SKU that enables people to just run Red Hat OpenShift virtualization just for VMs. We've had a lot of inquiries over the last 6 months around, I'm a Veeam customer, I use Veeam for our vSphere environment. I want to be able to use that same tool, that same platform, to be able to protect my OpenShift virtual machines in the same way. Same UI, same feel, my Veeam admins know this, they know the feel. Kasten looks a little bit different, it's more Kubernetes focused. So Red Hat OpenShift is coming into the Veeam platform as well. So there'll be options as to how you protect that.
Is it a bit like a cat and mouse thing to actually follow up all the workloads? You know, they're popping up, new workloads are popping up, especially through IR as well. So now you're actually kind of running after to support them and to make sure that you can protect that kind of workload.
Yeah, to a degree, that's how it started, and then suddenly the floodgates open and you get some weird and wonderful KVM-based hypervisors that pop up as a request from customers. So we do listen to that, and that's ultimately how we plan that delivery. But then what we've actually created with 13.1 is the Universal Hypervisor API. Let's just make it an API framework that, okay, hypervisor, you wanna come on the Veeam journey with us. Here's an API package. Here's a framework. Build that against it, and then we'll release it. They do the development against the API. it comes back to us from a QA perspective, and then it gets released as a plugin. So that, to that point, there's a lot more skin in the game from both parties, as well as customer pressure on the hypervisor. But yeah, so that's really the key takeaway there. What features will be there from if you think about a version 1 of all the universal hypervisors, so if you see Veeam now supports XYZ hypervisor, out of the box it has to be these foundations around VM backup, obviously, but it has to have change block tracking. Like, there is no one in the world that wants to take, if it's 500 gigabyte virtual machine plus, if it doesn't have change block tracking, it's going to be 500 gig or at least it's going to have to walk through that file system every single day. So change block tracking, it feels weird in 2026 talking about change block tracking, but here we are. VM restore, you have to be able to go back to the original location, to an alternate location, and to and from other hypervisors and different public cloud environments. I'll touch on portability in a sec. And then some of the other things around things like inline malware detection. Like, as we're backing up, let's make sure that you're not backing up bad data or affected data. I've already mentioned kind of Morpheus is out there today, seeing big traction from a HPE partnership on that. They're obviously pushing that really hard as well. And then some others that are there. These are in beta today. Red Hat OpenShift is available on Kasten, but coming to a Veeam platform near you. There should be a demo there. Oh.
There it goes.
So one of our key technical differentiators, so any customer backing up any image-based backup from Veeam gets stored into this VBK format without getting into the weeds too much. Doesn't matter what image that is. That could be a bare metal Windows server, Linux server, they get stored into this same file format. If it's a VMware or a Hyper-V or Nutanix or EC2 instance, all get stored in the same format. That opens up the door. This takes ages to build out, so I'm just going to hit it. But so regardless of where it comes from, it also enables us to restore that workload into any of the other locations. So remember, Veeam is a software company. We don't sell storage. So we ultimately have the ability, that VBK format is a self-describing file that enables us to restore that to any of these locations, with the added benefit of being able to instantly recover that into VMware, Hyper-V, Nutanix, but also Azure if that VBK is actually stored in Azure Blob or Veeam Vault, which is our own backup as a service. I guess we do sell storage because we sell cloud-based storage. But that is one of our biggest differentiators. Customers are using this to migrate their workloads, see what they look like on different hypervisors in the public cloud. The license for this as well is also important. We use something called the Veeam Universal License, which is, okay, you started on VMware, and then in 90 days you move to Hyper-V, that license follows that workload. So it's a flexible workload, whereas a lot of our competition would charge you for a new backup for Hyper-V or backup for VMware. So our license is flexible like that with any of our instance-based backup. Here's the demo.
How would it work if I have like this workload on VMware and I want to move it to something else? I want to go to Proxmox.
Yeah.
But I want to be sure that my workload VMware works and one on the Proxmox works. And I want to keep them alive for a little while how would that work with my license? To backup.
So do you want to back up the Proxmox as well? So you've got 100 VMs on VMware and you've got 100 VMs on Proxmox.
Yeah, but
VMware is your production. That's the important one. So we continue backing that up. But you also want to back up what the Proxmox.
I'm in transition. I want to move out of VMware. And I want to go to Proxmox, but I want to be sure that everything works.
He wants to validate the backups, the backup system before.
Yeah, so the license would work to give you the ability to do that. I mean, it depends how long you're running that for, but if you're running that for 6 months.
But there's like a grace period.
Yeah, exactly that. Like, we want to help our customers move that data.
There's a 30-day grace period.
Okay.
So that's
Yeah.
normally we always, if there's a customer coming in for migration, that's also why this is being used as migration tooling. We always ask them, if you do like a large migration, we know it's not like in a weekend, would love to, but no, we know how the reality is. So that's also why we ask them, just mention it to support, that we know, and then you can just run through, and then you can clean up the old environment as soon as you think the new environment is up-notch, what you should be. So there's ways around it, but normally there's a grace period for
Yeah, it's a good question. Yeah, like I say, grace period. This was the OpenShift virtualization. So this is VBR. This is Veeam Backup and Replication. Stop with the acronyms. And ultimately, this is the Red Hat OpenShift. How do we bring that Red Hat OpenShift virtualization into Veeam? So we add it as a hypervisor into our environment. See, this is called Michael Croxy. We're not going to use that. That's a code name for Kasten Proxy. We're using Kasten under the hood in Kubernetes still, but it's a headless approach. To your point, I've got my VMware environment here, a Windows server. I've got the ability to not only just protect that, obviously, that's what we do, but then now I want to recover that into Red Hat OpenShift virtualization. So VM started in VMware, and now I want to bring that up into Red Hat OpenShift. So KubeVirt is the project underneath Red Hat OpenShift. So the premise of this video is that it doesn't matter what platform you want to go from and to. This would be the same wizard-driven approach. There's APIs behind this as well. You choose what that storage looks like, what cluster you're going to, what does the network need to look like, are you changing the name? All of that stuff gets done as part of that restore process. So being able to choose the network, give it a reason as to why. This might just be, I just want to see what it looks like and how it runs on Red Hat OpenShift. We might not be doing a migration, I just want to see what it looks like. So then that starts that process, restores that data into that new platform, and then we're up and running. We haven't done anything to the production. Production is still running. Like, you make that choice as a user to shut that down, do a final backup, and then a restore.
Let's change the scenery a little bit. So there we go. Security and resilience. So, Michael, thank you for running us through. But it's kind of what already alluded, I think, Frank, if I'm correct? Yeah. It's about identity, and identity is normally tied to like a human being. But then we hit the AI era. All of a sudden, we have non-human identities roaming around, doing things that you don't even trust your colleagues to do. But we just give them all permissions there. Oh, sorry, go back. So if you look at identity itself, it has always been under attack. As soon as I got this one, I was kind of laughing, because as a hacker, I always go for an identity. Because if I can take over one of your accounts, I become invisible into the infrastructure. As long as I don't do stupid stuff, kind of. But that's where you're normally being popped up and, hey, hold on, there's someone in the system. Because if someone is taking over an identity, they become a ghost. That's also why you see also Microsoft has like more than 7,000 attacks per second on an identity going in. That's also why this is a huge area where we have to look into and protect. But also the backups. They're still #1 target. Why? Because we all said, okay, that's the data we want to protect, that's valuable, let's take a backup. Why would you otherwise take a backup, right? And by getting the backup, you get everything. Because of the data being sprawling all over the place. SaaS, on-prem, some other locations, on laptops, on devices. The backup normally brings that all together. So for an attacker, that's kind of the easy going. Just take the backups, you have everything. And if it's a rainy day, you go through the backups. That's where you see that that's one of those things, protection. That's where hackers aim for. And now we have human hackers, but we also have the non-human identities. They're doing the same thing as a hacker. Anyone heard about the whole thing about anthropic mythos? I'll explain that one. Anyone not familiar with that? please raise your hand because it's kind of in the weeds. Yeah, it's kind of in the weeds. What they did is they built like an LLM and a model with kind of brains that can do re-engineering, testing things, and finding holes in software quite easily. Normally a hacker will take like months or years for that. They could do it in seconds.
What's it called?
Mythos, Anthropic Mythos. This glass wing project. They also said, as soon as they tested it with some partners, ooh, we have some ethics, please don't release this to the open world. Because if we release this, it will bring up so much harm and chaos that we cannot even survive as all. But there's also a downside to that one. They are releasing it now, but in a different way, Anthropic security. So what they're doing is they're putting an MCP server on a sandbox, same as we do with a sandbox for testing VMs. They're putting the information they want to attack in that sandbox. MCP is kind of the gateway through it, and then the model is going through the MCP server into that environment to test things. Engineer, reverse engineer, find holes. If I compare that to a physical person like myself, what I will do is install Linux, Kali, get all my hacking tools, but I have to do it manually. So I have to go through scanning the network. Okay, I see some ports open, those ports, new tool, and then NDAP, go through, test what's on those ports. What services are there? Oh, I see service like a web service. I know some tools, get some other tools, and try to get in. That Mythos thing, so the AI agent running through, is autonomous. It thinks for itself and knows, oh, hold on, that port's open, that one, and it connects all those dots in seconds. That's also the scary thing. That's also why we want to try to keep those non-humans out. But if you look through and those non-humans, we have like 82-to-1 ratio at the moment. So every colleague you have, you already have 82 non-human colleagues doing things. And what Michael said, give them God mode, you only live once, YOLO. That's kind of what's happening. So management, identities, but also recovery. Before there was a breach, we had a backup, can go and roll back. Now within seconds, it's not even an attack. It can just be an agent thinking, you asked me to clean up, I will clean up for you. That's also what happened with some databases. In 7 seconds, production was lost, or better said, cleaned. Backup was removed, everything was installed and clean and pristine to go. It wasn't a breach. It wasn't a person doing a strange thing. It was just an agent listening to its commands. That's why we have to go and have that trust layer built, and also making sure that we can roll back to that particular moment in time. So how do we do it?
I have a question for you. So why do it in the first place? If you're going to have to do it manually anyway, now you're doing it twice.
What do you mean?
Well, you're asking the AI to do it, and then you would get the human in the middle to go verify what the AI did. You talked about doing it manually, you have to go check each port. That's not a bad thing, because you're going through it. And even if the AI did it, you still have to go and check if it did it, so you've done it twice.
No, that's the whole thing. As a human being, we have those steps.
Yeah.
That agent does that autonomously. It doesn't go back to us. It will just run through.
That's a problem. This is
That's
why databases get deleted. So you
Yeah.
have to go back and verify it. Now you're doing it twice.
That's correct, Ben. And if you have agents that are registered, we normally get that ping back. We also have agents that are not registered, that we don't know about.
I'm sorry, I'm going to stop you there. Even if your agent is registered, you still have to verify that the agent that is registered did it right.
Yeah, that's also what we're doing.
But now you're doing it twice. You've
No.
got the human factor of
Ben, why are we
verification.
taking offline? Sophie's just
Sorry,
letting
okay,
know.
thank you.
Thank you.
So, identity, Active Directory, Entra ID and AD. Those are the two most used worldwide to using for like an identity system to authenticate and authenticate. If you look what we can do for Entra ID, is the objects we protect. A lot of those objects should be protected. It's not just the username and the password. It's all the context that's beneath it. Where do you have access to? What tokens do you have? Where are you going to? All those different things, also those BitLocker keys. You have a laptop that's rolled into the whole thing through Intune. If it's stolen, you want to just block it. If there's something wrong, you want to recover it. That's also why we do the objects that we can recover into that one. There's one thing in there that's really interesting, and that's kind of the hidden gem in a lot of Veeam products. That's the compare to production feature. So what we do is we have a backup, you have production. You go into the Explorer, and you just compare those 2 points in time. You can even go back further with more restore points that you took along the line. By doing that, you can see in that environment what did change. What changed happened. Especially when you have a breach on your hands, you don't want to recover everything if it's not needed. We want to know which accounts have been compromised, which ones have been created in that period of time. And by doing the compare, you can figure out what objects changed. But not just an account, but also things that an account like myself are coming in, or an attacker comes in. It takes over your identity and changes the password. Those things you want to capture, because then you know there's no new net account, but there's something changed on that account. So that account should be flagged, disabled at that moment in time. By running through and getting a backup of Enter ID, we can make sure you can roll back and also get that precision rollback. There we go. We already had that for Active Directory on-prem. And on-prem, you will see that we can go really granularly. We take the whole backup of the domain controller of the whole forest, and we can roll back the whole thing, a server, an organizational unit, or just security details. One thing was missing in that part was the forest level recovery. Because forest level recovery means that you have to go through a lot of steps, 40 at least, 149 pages from Microsoft. Don't skip one step. If you skip one of those steps, it's game over in a recovery. That's also why we said we have to help organizations get the tooling right. That's why we are introducing the forest level recovery in 13.1, making sure that all those steps. You have a question? Yes, go.
There was a kind of event that name is Mythos, and certainly we don't have access to all the vulns he had found in Europe, but maybe you will have it, because I think that in AD or even Enter ID, there will be some low and medium CVs that will have, and how will you manage to avoid the combination of all these vulns, which are all the products that you restore, but and how much patch do you will or how much CVs you will give to your customers of the community, since there is that Mythos?
Yeah, so if I get the question right, it's about Mythos and covering like a lot of things, so you have CVEs on your hands.
And you say you restore
vulnerabilities, and you have to patch those. That's the question, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So if you look at that, also if you look through the platform, we automate updates more and more. Because one thing we human beings are really bad in is patching. Because if you ask a backup admin or just an admin of infrastructure, it will just he or she will answer like, if it ain't broke, please don't fix it. But if you go to the security part, it will be, there's an update it now. You have to find that balance in between. That's also why we built in the platform, the VDP, Veeam Data Platform, automatic updates. First for just the Veeam components. In 13.1, we will also update the Windows components and the Linux components beneath it. So if there are more CVEs coming out and there's a patch, and that's also why Anthropic comes with security. So that's kind of the other side of the house. They will give organizations like yourself or our customers or us an option to use Anthropic security. What it does is it will try to find a hole. If it finds a hole, it also creates a patch. So that CVE is like, okay, we found something, we can fix it. We just have to test it, like Q&A, and then we can fix that one. Other questions about that topic?
No, after what's
great question.
What's the time to patch?
No, but that's the whole thing. It's a kind of what I always say, digital hygiene. We have to stay on our game. And that's also with the non-human identities. The game doesn't really change, it only speeds up. We have to do the same things. We have to make sure we are digital hygiene. We do patching, we do updating. In a more fashionable way and a more faster way, but also use the security best practices. They didn't change this game. They just sped it up. So Active Directory forest recovery, what you have to do is go through all the domains, get every domain controller, put in credentials, recover them in order. That's also why we do that now in tooling. I think I have a demo in that one. Let's go. Oh, should be done. Should be done. We'll be right there. So what will happen is it will run through. It's one thing. You have Active Directory, you have Enter ID. But most of the organizations, I'm curious about your own organization, have a hybrid environment. They have both. So they have to protect that whole estate of identity. That's also why we say restore Active Directory first, so on-prem, or where it's running at that moment in time. Sync Enter ID via Cloud Connect. Make sure that the authorities and identities are the same on both sides. And then restore the cloud attributes. By making sure that you do that in order, through the tooling, it will help you, just guide you through. You just have to put in some information about credentials and connections and where it has to go. Then the tool will step through that 149 pages for you. I think that, yeah, we have.
How long will that take?
Sorry.
How long will that take?
Depending on how many domains you have. Because it's a forest level recovery. If you want to do everything, and you have, for instance, 3 domains, it takes between 15 to 20 minutes to recover. If you have 100 domains, it can take up hours because it has to go through all the different domains. And I love to have this tooling like 10, 15 years ago because it did a lot of domain renaming. We never had a backup. It was always like, fingers crossed, don't skip a step and go through it. And making sure that you test. Yeah, this one, okay, next one. This tool will speed it up tremendously. We did like a renaming of a forest with 3 domains with 7 people in 2 weeks. Just by doing all the steps. And fingers crossed that nothing goes wrong. Fortunately, we were lucky in that one. But now with the tooling, it can be within 1 day, you're completely up and running again. So let me start this one. Restore forest level recovery, VMware or Hyper-V. Go through, you select your forest, check the logo, go through, but you will see there will be multiple domains. Select one of the restore points. Then we go next. Because now it's going to look into the restore point. Okay, what's in there? We have 3 domains, HackShack, EMEA, and APJ. By selecting those different, you have to select for every domain a domain controller. So it knows, okay, that domain you also want to return to where it should be and run through that one. By putting in the credentials, it will connect to. So you have to make sure the connection is there. That's the one thing you have to do in the tooling. Make sure that the tool knows what do you want to do. Running through, it will say, okay, those are the preserved, where I have to go to, one or more same names, do you want to override? Especially when you do a forest level recovery, please override. Or if you go to another location, don't override. But also make sure that those 2 organizations, or better said, those 2 environments, doesn't connect. They don't connect to each other, otherwise you have some real issues on your hands. It will run through, start Active Directory recovery, and it will prepare everything. But it has to go through like FSMO roles, making sure where's the global catalog, who is the naming server, where's the RD, go for it.
Is it a snapshot at some time?
Yes.
Or it's a snapshot?
Yeah, it is.
As the Microsoft said, or restore point, which is fixed.
Restore point can be a snapshot, can be a backup. So depending on how you protect it, some organizations will use the snapshot only feature. So it's not kind of a backup because it's tied to the storage, but you can still use it as like the source, or you can go to a backup.
In fact, it was just to avoid the confusion because in every laptop you've got Windows restore points that you fix, but it's not that, it's a snapshot.
Yeah. So it will run through, as you can see, to the end, and that makes sure that all the phases complete before you enter into production again. Bless you.
Sorry.
So let's go into that one. So Michael alluded already to that. We have some other things coming up. For the Okta one, that will be the first one. A lot of that is tied to that one. Making sure that we have more identity providers available for organizations around there. Because we know Active Directory, Entra are the main ones, but there are more. And also some are even tied together to have like a double one. The same what we have with the hypervisor Hunger Games. You have multiple hypervisors now in organizations. You will also see that with identity providers. Cyber resilient enhancements. Let me build that one up. As Mike also said, we're not stopping cyber resilience because it's those errors that's building on top of each other. It's not that we don't need a backup anymore. Or some organizations say, hey, hold on, we have a backup, it's like on immutable, we don't need firewalls, anything else in between anymore. Yes, we still do. That's also those three errors built on top of each other. So we're expanding for the malware analysis in different platforms. Going into the NAS, AWS, Azure, Microsoft 365. They're all being brought onto that same level. Same what we do with the hypervisors, start from particular scratch up to all the features. That's also what we're doing across the board for all our products and solutions to bring the same technologies, the same brains to all of them. That's why we expand on the malware analysis. Automated AD virus recovery, already alluded on that one. And FIPS compliant hybrid post-quantum cryptography. Let me move to the last one. Post-quantum cryptography, a nice fancy word. Good for Scrabble. Anyone currently being asked about post-quantum? Some not. Anyone knows what post-quantum is? Because it's a really specific subject. Yes? Then I will dive deeper into it. So the risk is, it's not about the backups where they're being stored. Because if you look how the backups are being stored, they're being encrypted with AES, symmetric, and that's not in the current range of being decrypted by quantum. Making sure those are still safe, they are now for this period of time. Well, what's the whole thing? It's about the transit layer. So getting it from source to the backup. That's also why we're updating the transport layer with post-quantum cryptography libraries, making sure those algorithms are secure. We had to wait on NIST to make them secure, better said, to validate them that they are secure. That happened in 2024. We now build them into the platform. There's one thing, and that's the whole thing about FIPS compliancy. FIPS is kind of certification authority. They stamp, okay, this is the framework, the security framework you use, those are the libraries you use, those two are together, this is the certificate. For anyone out there to have trust into it. PQC and FIPS currently is not available at the moment because there are no libraries being stamped by the NIST to be PQC compliant. It's coming, and that's also why we built it into the platform. But we made sure that everything that's in the platform now is just a switch. As soon as NIST says, okay, those libraries are good to go, they are now FIPS compliant, we can just toggle the switch, or better said, the customer can make the decision to toggle it without redeploying the whole infrastructure. Go for it.
In fact, what you showed us is it's quite more complicated, and why not just to implement TLS 1.3?
Sorry, can you repeat that one?
To implement TLS 1.3?
No, that's not post-quantum
because in all the
safe.
exchange will be, the handshake will be already
Yes, and that's also why the transport layer, that's also why the internet is kind of scrambling to get that fixed, and we're not there yet. Also in the whole SSL, it's not there. We have to go to new libraries, so new cryptographic things. As soon as that happens, we can bring that up, and that's also why we have those libraries already in, because they are also all transport layers on internet, other organizations that do, for instance, Cloudflare, they're working on that to make sure that the transport also over the internet is safe for post-quantum.
Okay.
So deploy once, decide later. That's also why we said we have to figure out, a way to make sure it's easy for everyone to adopt, but also don't push everyone into redeploying, re-architecting everything to start from scratch, kind of. Cyber resilient ecosystem, we just keep adding more organizations and technology partners to that, to make sure that everyone has the right choices for them to go through.
Excuse me, does
Yes.
the PQC have any impact on performance
Yes,
or the size of the backups?
not the size, but performance, because it's kind of the transport between.
Yeah.
So it takes more CPU and more memory.
Yeah.
That's also why we said we can build it in, but we don't flip it on right away, because it should be a decision for the organization, because it has impact.
Yeah.
A lot of new infrastructure that's been deployed like 2 years ago until now, I'm not worried. But if you're running for like 5 or 6 years on that same hardware,
And that's reality?
and that's reality, and that's why people have to start their journey now, to have it already in. When there's a cycle to flip, for instance, new hardware or move, then you can also decide, hey, we also want that to be on.
Talking about CPUs and memories, I mean, we have a level
Oh, sorry.
right now. We're talking about CPU and memory.
Yeah.
As you said, you know, if you buy, we
Yeah.
bought it 1 years ago, fine, good on you. Because if you want to buy anything or any storage component at the moment, you're running into a problem. So do you actually see an impact already with your customers in that area? I mean, I know I'm straying a bit, so I'm sorry for that. But,
Oh, no, no.
it's-
Please do,
it's-
I'm Dutch, so.
So it's definitely something that we're seeing that customers or users are really struggling with. So they're also, because of that, they're changing their data management, they're changing their resource management. So do you actually see that as well?
Yes, that's also why we built it in already into the platform.
Yeah.
We don't think it will be live tomorrow. Some organizations will, but the rest will kind of adopt it between now and 2035. It's kind of almost a 10-year stretch. But if you don't have it into the platform, you don't have that option to choose, because when you go to like new hardware, hey, now we can do it, let's flip it, because then we know also the impact on the hardware and we can move from there forward. So yeah.
But can you give us a little bit of feeling how big that impact on the hardware is?
What we have seen, but it's really depending on the type of hardware we have beneath it. But let's take normal commodity Intel hardware, AMD processor for like a proxy, we see like a 20 to 25% overhead as an impact. Normally you have that bandwidth, but some organizations don't. And then it can bring you into problems, because then the backup window all of a sudden extends, and that's not what you want.
Fred, how long have we got?
7.
10 minutes.
Sweet. So just to add on to that, from a Veeam point of view, there is no hardware involved unless obviously they need it. So we're not going through that same distribution burden of our prices are going up every 7 days, or this quote is only valid for 7 days or 14 days. So we don't have that issue. Veeam, being software, can be installed anywhere, and also they can send their backup data either to any commodity storage that they've got or to the public cloud. But it is something that we are seeing, and in my opinion, we should be doubling down on we're software only, and we can help at least in the interim until your nice shiny black box comes. Cool. So there's 5-10 minutes left. I wanted to talk about data operations, and this is not so much AI on how to get your data ready, but also how are we enabling our customers to use AI to simplify their resilience operations? Like how can we use AI to speed up the day 2 stuff when it comes to backing stuff up, and in a safe way? I keep on mentioning this because on one of the slides there's a restore agent, and that worries the hell out of me. But because I don't want an agent restoring. That should be a manual. That should just be a human, not a human in the loop. That should just be a human doing that. So under the umbrella of Veeam Intelligence is really how we started our AI assistant for our Veeam customers. And it very much started like every single software company website in the world started with a chatbot. Chatbot based on our documentation. How do I do this? How do I do that? Comes back with natural language, gives you a nice answer to whatever you're trying to do. It then progressively was trained on different areas around, okay, how do I write a PowerShell or a Python script to do this? And it would give you that back. But you would manually have to take that and put that into your code editor and you make that change. Like, we're not running any of this. There's a lot going on this slide, but ultimately it's about how do we help provide some information that maybe 2+ years ago you would have had to have gone digging for in an observability tool. Maybe it's Veeam 1 from an observability perspective, our monitoring and reporting tool. You'd have to go and create a report. You'd have to go and run that report. That would hit SQL and get all of that information, great stuff. Well, now I could just go to Veeam Intelligence as a chatbot and go, give me a report based on these factors, and that will generate that for you. So much, much quicker from a prediction point of view. It can also be a good just morning coffee report, like tell me what didn't go so well last night, and it will give you a report based on that. In 13.1, there's a couple of areas that we're going. So one is the job. These are agents that are coming into, or agent that is coming into Veeam Intelligence. So these will run, and they're looking at certain elements, and they're programmed to look at specifics. So the job session analysis is looking at your logs. Only in a read-only mode, it's looking at them logs, and it's going to be able to look at them and see if there's failures and what that pattern looks like, and et cetera, et cetera. So that'll be part of it. It's a sub-agent to it. Proactive support. So one of the big things, obviously, from any software is call up support. I've got a problem. This isn't working. That's not working. Okay, can you go and get a log bundle? Can you do this? Can you do that? Like, we've all probably done something similar. What this does is actually go and proactively goes and gets that and bundles it up and sends it to Veeam support. The human has to hit send, but ultimately it does all of that walking through and getting that information before you send it off. Equally, it could be, so we've got some really cool reports around capacity management within Veeam 1. You have to go and set them up, you have to configure them, schedule them, etc. You can get an email on the capacity being used, capacity thresholds, etc. Great stuff if you wanted to go and set and forget that type thing. This will make it a lot easier because it's going to tell you proactively, like your repository is 90%. Your vSphere data store is running out of space, and it'll give you that warning shot, that smoke signal before something bad happens. You don't want your VMFS like data store to run out of storage. Equally, we've spent a lot of time around MCPs across the board at Veeam. So model context protocol. So being able to, and in fact, just because you mentioned around sovereignty, I wanted to touch on that. So where is all this metadata going, and why are you sending Veeam all of this information? We're not. The metadata goes back into our own OpenAI. So Azure OpenAI is the model that we use, but it's just the metadata that goes back in. It's no sensitive information, like we don't get anything around IP addresses or information about the infrastructure. It's just the metadata to tell us what that context needs to look like to be able to get that information back to the user. Equally, there is a bring your own model, so you don't have to send anything back to us, and you can bring something running on Olama or VLLM locally. You don't have to send anything back to us because we have a large majority of defense customers out there that are air-gapped, and they have a policy where they can't send that, so understandably. Equally, this is going to help us or help our customers from an MCP perspective around things like anomaly detection, auditing. There's MCP service for the security side of things around the understanding, the privacy, the governance, etc. around that. So that's all available today as well. I just wanted to show one last demo before we wrap things up. So if we think about MCP and how it was positioned was, or potentially in this instance, your Claude desktop becomes your new user experience. So could this be the future of that, instead of having weird and wonderful applications, dashboards for different applications, everything just goes through this one console. How very wally of us. But ultimately, I have my Claude desktop in the demo set up with a ServiceNow integration, so into an MCP that is used in the ServiceNow integration, and I have the MCP for Veeam backup and replication. And if this works, let's just hit, oh, there we go. So giving it a prompt, good morning, what do my Veeam environments look like today? What do backup jobs look like? Their last state, run duration, blah, blah, blah. Give me that morning coffee report, is what I've been calling it. So it goes away, it looks at that, good morning, I'll gather information about your Veeam environments and create a comprehensive HTML report. Let me check, it goes and checks. And you can see that overall health is 83%. It's created that report, 100% AI generated, we've all seen it. There's emojis everywhere, but it gives me that information. That's very quick information. I haven't had to go and run an observability tool to go and get that information. And we've got a couple of errors in there, and you can see recommendations. Okay, that's great. And maybe that on its own is pretty powerful. But what if those errors can actually be plugged into that MCP of ServiceNow and go and create tickets based on them? And that's exactly what will happen. So I'll create a ServiceNow incident with all the critical Veeam issues and recommend the actions. Ticket gets opened, someone can go and fix that. Now imagine a broader world where you have MCPs for multiple different areas of your business, and that will all feed into that one place and be able to use that as your user experience into your whole platform, not just the Veeam platform. This should finish, Fred. I know we're at time, but I know everyone loves a demo, so, and the screen's working.
Don't we all? Well, exactly.
So we should look at it. So, and then I went off and went, let's use another MCP and go and create a PowerPoint presentation so I can give it to my boss and tell him what this looks like. So I think with that, it's going to go and create some slides. Yeah, it's just showing the art of the possible when it comes to what MCP could actually be like over the coming years.
For the universal hypervisor API, is this only for this new players, or will also the existing like vSphere be rewritten to use this universal hypervisor?
Yeah, good question. So the Veeam Universal license is global. The licensing will be per VM or per instance. The hypervisor API is for new hypervisors. That list of what I showed with what comes with that version 1 is like we have 20 years of development from a vSphere perspective, so we have way more. We like replication for one is a big area, CDP for another. Like so it's only for new hypervisors.